I have 3 children, and they all had serious medical needs. The first one, when she was an infant, we thought that she was a genius. She has cerebral palsy, which affects all of her muscles, and she had an insufficiency of oxygen. She didn't breathe for 10 minutes when she was born.
Oh my goodness.
She had a mucus plug in her throat. She also was born having meningitis, and so that affected her brain. When she was born, I had just pushed her out, and they're saying, we have a problem. In fact, they got on the phone and said, we have a bad baby.
Like, what would you think?
How is she bad? She hasn't had time to do anything yet.
I'm Becky Brower, and I'm a Sendy mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast.
Welcome to the Sendy Mom Podcast. I am really excited to be here with my friend Candace Bergquist, and we've been neighbors for a while. A couple months ago when we were chatting at a wedding reception, and I was like, oh my goodness, everybody needs to hear all of these things that you're telling me about, because she has been through a lot. She's like the ultimate Sendy mom as far as like volunteering and serving other people and being an advocate, particularly for her children with their special needs, as well as for herself, because she's been through a lot. And so we're going to kind of unpack, some of the trials and things that you've had to go through in your life, but also some of the successes, because you've published 3 different books. You have a master's and a bachelor's in history. Is that right? From BYU and
California State University at Dominguez Hills.
Okay. The other very interesting thing about Candace is that she is an identical mirror twin.
Yes.
And so can you explain what that is?
Well, identical means that we shared the same placenta. Mirror is that we are kind of opposite in a number of ways. I'm right-handed. She's left-handed. I have a calic here. She has one there, or opposite. I don't even know. But we have characteristics that are opposite.
Interesting. Okay. So how does that manifest? Like, what are some of the characteristics that might change and make you different?
Our personalities are very different. Not entirely opposite, but there are some definite opposites in terms of our personalities. And of course, the handedness, which handedness makes a big difference in how you perceive the world.
Really?
And so...
and you said you're right-handed? Okay.
And she's left. I can use both hands, actually, but...
That's really fascinating. Like, why does that make a difference? Because my husband is left-handed, and I'm right-handed, so...
Well, just think about it visually.
Okay.
And the way you move your body. For example, we were at dinner the other night, and my husband was on my right, and he's left-handed. Okay. So he said, can you please use your left hand tonight so I can use my left hand also? And it's just the way you move in the world is different. And when we were growing up, you had to have left-handed scissors if you were left-handed, or you couldn't cut. He talks about being in school and trying to cut paper, and everybody's whipping through the paper. And he's like, what in the world? And he learned he had to use his right hand because there was maybe one pair of left-handed scissors in the school.
Right.
And he didn't happen to have them. Yeah. So he's learned to adapt also because it's a right-handed world.
Yeah. And that's what my husband says too. His mom really worked hard with him at being able to do everything else with his right hand, because she said, this is just the world you're going to live in. I'm really sorry, but this is how it is.
That's right. And that's what my husband experienced. My mother's left-handed. My sister's left-handed. Our daughter, Michelle, would be left-handed, but because of her disability, she had to figure out how to use her right.
Yeah. There was an episode I did, like a spotlight I did on Margaret Steiff, and she was the inventor of the teddy bear, but she was highly handicapped and could not use her right hand. And so she learned to sew backwards so that she could use the other hand. Maybe it was the left. And so she could use her left hand to do everything. And incredible what the brain can handle when we challenge it a little bit.
Yes.
So.
And then sometimes you get tired and you ask your wife to use her non-dominant hand because you want to use your dominant hand.
Yeah.
But it really changes the way that we look at the world and the way we move in the world.
Yeah. Well, and I guess with having so many people that have these divergent types of needs, it helps you to be really aware of that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me about the family that you grew up in, and maybe some of the things that you learned or didn't learn about being curious and taking risks.
I grew up in a family that had our two parents, and that's a whole adventure there, just in terms of who ended up being my parents, and my two siblings, my sister and a brother who's 5 years younger than my sister and I.
Okay, so let's talk about the parents, though. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
I'm kind of adopted. My mother is my biological mother. The dad who raised me is not.
Okay.
And my sister and I almost ended up in some other family because we were going to be put up for adoption because we weren't expected. And we were wards of the state for the first 6 weeks of our lives while we were in the hospital because we were premature.
Your parents weren't capable of taking care of you, or they just didn't?
They were young. There was just a lot around that. And so they were not going to keep us.
Okay.
And then they decided at the last minute that they were going to keep us. And the interesting thing is that the lady who was at the state office, I don't quite understand what the office was, but she had been a neighbor of the dad that raised me.
Okay.
And she didn't process the papers putting us up for adoption.
Oh.
She risked her job, I'm sure. She set them aside knowing that they'd be back.
Interesting.
And they were.
So nobody was able to even look at you to adopt you because
Right.
she had done that.
Mm-hmm.
She just had a feeling that
Right, that they'd be back.
Wow. Okay.
And
this is your biological father.
No, my biological father actually, depending on who you talk to, he didn't know about us until we were around. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I've talked to different members of the family, and it's been nearly 60 years now, and people don't remember the details, or they're choosing not to remember the details.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Sounds like some serious family drama.
Yes, from the very beginning.
Wow.
But my dad who raised us and my mother were married for 14 years of our lives, and then they chose to get divorced, and then I got more parents because they got remarried.
Wow. Okay. They both got remarried.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that, how was that like growing up? You're a teenager and you have parents that are kind of having struggles. Like, how did you deal with that? Like, you talked about your sister having kind of an opposite personality. So did that affect the way that you perceived this dissolution?
Well, we actually didn't know they were having problems until they sat us down one day and said, "Oh, we're getting divorced." We're like, "What? You guys never argue or anything."
Uh-huh.
But in our house, argument wasn't allowed.
Okay.
So if they argued, which I assume they did, it wasn't in front of us.
Okay.
And when they got divorced, my mom became very stressed and had to go to work and all that. And so I took kind of the role of the leader of the house. I did the cooking, cleaning. My brother and sister worked hard to kill each other all the time, fighting, literally fighting. There's a big open space around which the hallway of our second story went, and they would fight, and I thought one of them would fall to their death, so I was trying to break them up all the time. So it was a stressful time for everyone.
Yeah.
And I was a little put out because we were expected to go see our dad on the weekends, and I had a job and I had a life, and I thought, well, you guys got divorced. That shouldn't ruin my prospects for the things I need to do.
Yeah.
And I was 14, so I wasn't very mature about it, but I was a little irritated by that.
That must have been really hard.
It was because, like you said, there was no discussion, and then there's yelling. Oh,
yeah.
The benefit of having my parents separate was that I really got to know my dad, in ways I wouldn't have had they still been together, because it was mom and dad, and then it was mom and dad.
Yeah.
They were separate people all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And that might have been a natural thing that would happen for a teenager to begin to see them as separate people. But a forced separation of interaction showed them as two separate people who were very different and both really good in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, and you have a tendency to look for the good in everyone too, Candace. So I think that probably helped in being able to have those relationships with them, because there could be some bitterness that could be associated with having parents divorce, but that doesn't have to happen. You make the choice. Yeah.
It helped, though, a lot that they didn't say terrible things about each other.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So, and then you moved around quite a bit during your childhood.
We moved
right?
every 2 years. My dad was not in the military, but he was a problem solver for insurance companies.
Okay.
And so he moved. Actually, it was just one insurance company he was working with at that time. He'd be moved to a problem area, fix it, and then we'd move. So we had a lot of chances to meet a lot of different people in different parts of the country. We lived in California, Texas, and Michigan, only 3 states, but
those are formative years, though, that you're moving.
And we learned a lot. In Texas, we found out that people do have a lot of prejudice. That was in the 70s, and then it was horrible. We moved, little California girls, and we're going to be friends with everybody. And we were told that's not how we do it here.
Really?
Like, well, that's how we do it for us.
Yeah.
So we did anyway. But there was a lot of racial tension in that area in Texas where we were.
Did that kind of form some opinions for you about race and what you felt?
No, because I already knew that everybody's just as good as everybody else.
Yeah.
So it made me feel like you guys are stupid.
Right?
Why are you doing this?
I know.
This is ridiculous.
We're all children of God.
Exactly. I didn't have that phrase at that time because I hadn't joined the Church of Jesus Christ yet. But I knew that we all had the same value. It didn't matter what we looked like. And I just thought that was ridiculous.
So is that something that was instilled in you as a child, like from your parents?
I think it probably was. I don't remember it specifically. My grandmother was very prejudiced. She grew up in the South.
Okay.
And she was of the mind that races were different. She was very difficult that way. In fact, she was in several rest homes. And because of the way she treated people of color, she was asked to leave all of them.
Really?
Wow.
So
that never ended. And I think my dad saw that and said, that's ridiculous. My grandfather was Italian. And when his family came to America, they were treated poorly. And I think he had the perspective of one who was discriminated against. And which is interesting that they ended up together. But I think that really informed my dad's attitudes.
Yeah.
And then he must have distilled that to us. I don't remember specific examples of it, though.
But it's so interesting because the experiences of your life, like, it informs you, it educates you, and it changes the way that you perceive the world, really. And then you pass those kinds of things down to the next generation.
Right.
And so,
for good or bad.
Exactly. So hopefully we're selecting good things from our ancestors to put down to our children. But at the same time, there are some bad things as well that can be passed down. So
my first experience with any kind of racial discrimination, I was in 2nd grade. I was invited to a birthday party along with the other girls in my class. And so that was, I don't know, maybe 15 girls. And I got to the party. I was all excited. I wore my little pink embroidered dress that my mom made for me. And I was so excited. I had my gift. And I got there and I walked into the house and I was the only guest. And so we thought, well, other people just aren't here yet.
Okay.
And so I was speaking with the girl and her mother, wondering what was going on. They were from Africa.
Okay.
Literally from Africa.
Yes.
And we waited and waited, and the mother had made this beautiful table of food, and it was just heavily laden with food, and there were games planned and all these things. And nobody came. Nobody.
Yeah.
Other than myself.
Wow.
I was so devastated for her. At the time, I was treated like a queen because I was the only one there. I left with a beautiful doll as a gift for coming.
being there.
And I got to the car and I was sobbing. Because, I mean, even now, all those years, why would anybody do that to this little girl?
Yeah.
And we were in California. I didn't think they had those attitudes in California.
Yeah.
And I knew at that age that that was so wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that really shaped who you were. I mean, it still happens today, but hopefully things are getting better. I think it means so much when somebody shows that interest and so shows that support, because what we're looking at is not necessarily the circumstances, because we may not agree with how people treat other people or how people live their lives, but we can see that person and we can love that person and support that person no matter what they're choosing to do with their lives and what type of people they are. Your life has been totally filled with seeing people. And I think that that's beautiful. I know we talked before about slowing down and thinking before you speak and before you do something. And I think that's a really important thing. That's something I've really learned from you. So maybe tell me a little bit about why you have gotten to that way.
I've been a teacher for many years. And at one point I was a teacher in a children's class. And there was a student there who was acting out in the class. And they were, 8 children. And I asked him to leave the room for a minute so I could talk to him. Because even at that age, I was probably 18, I knew that embarrassing someone in front of a group of other people is wrong.
Right.
There's no reason to do that unless someone's about to physically damage someone.
Right.
And then you stop and you just say stop. You don't even have to address the behavior other than don't do that. It's going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to embarrass this child. So I put them out of the room and I said, I'll be out to talk to you in just a second. I want to give the kids something to do. I don't remember exactly what it was, but whatever it was, give them something to do while I was gone. And then I went out into the hallway and talked to the boy. And after that, there was a lady who said, "You've just ruined his life." Like,
ruined his life. Wow.
Pretty much. You make him leave church. He'll never believe in anything. You've ruined it because you singled him out.
Wow.
And that was devastating to me because I was trying to be considerate of his feelings by not calling him out in the classroom in front of other people. And I thought, I don't want to be responsible for ruining anybody's life or faith or anything
well, and if you're
like that.
18 years old and to have an older person tell you that would be devastating.
I was devastated, but it made me think, okay, I don't want to make anybody ever feel that way, that they would want to lose their faith, or even more, that they would feel like I did after she talked to me.
Right. Because
I was just so upset. Again, another moment that I remember all my life. And it made me really think that people's words make a big difference.
Yeah.
They can change the trajectory of someone's life.
Yeah.
And that sounds dramatic, but it's true. And you never know when a person is in a position mentally, physically, emotionally, where it really does change the trajectory of things. So one of the reasons I speak with more deliberate thought is that I don't want to be a pivotal moment like that in someone's life for the non-good, for the bad.
Right.
I want what I say to make a difference in the positive. And also in terms of the medical, I had a brain injury, so it takes me a little bit longer sometimes to process. I also have partial hearing, so that makes a difference too. And so I want to make sure that I've understood and that I kind of formulate what I say to respond to what's actually been said to me.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to realize that we're going to say things sometimes that are not taken the way that they were intended, or we say it wrong, and to not hold ourselves to too high of a standard. But it certainly will help if you stop before saying something and think about it and be a little bit deliberate about it. So, and then be kind to yourself if you do make a mistake, right?
And we all do. We all make mistakes all the time.
Oh, for sure. So tell me a little bit about this, the TBI that you had.
It was as a result of a car accident. Was on a street that had a lot of driveways. It was a street that had a lot of businesses on it. And there were 3 cars in front of me. The frontmost car was clearly not sure where they were meant to turn in. And this was long before GPSs or where they said turn into this driveway kind of thing.
Okay.
And so they were looking, I think, at the buildings to see if they were in the right area. And I could tell that was happening. The 2 cars in front of me could tell that was happening. And so we were kind of
slowing down
and maybe even stopped. At the point that the accident happened, I looked in my rearview mirror and saw that there was a car coming up very fast. Turns out he was driving at about 45 miles an hour, which was the speed limit for that road.
Yeah.
But under those conditions, it was not the appropriate speed.
Right.
And so as a result of seeing that, I knew I was going to be hit. There was nowhere I could go. I couldn't go to the right. I couldn't go to the left without the left of the oncoming traffic. On the right, there were poles on the sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was nowhere I could go. And so I just put on my brake as hard as I could. I didn't say anything to my children who were in the car. And I just held on as hard as I could because I didn't want to hit the person in front of me and then they would hit the next person and so on, causing a chain reaction. So I knew I had a choice of doing everything I could to stop a chain reaction or just not doing anything.
Right.
I chose to stop the chain reaction, which caused rigidity in my body because I was using all my strength to have this happen.
Yeah, you do. You just brace.
And that caused my neck to break, my shoulder to get ripped apart, my sternum had my ribs pulled away from my sternum, and it caused a closed skull brain injury of pretty good significance.
Yeah, but you kind of walked away from the accident,
I did walk away from the accident. I was in shock. I had a brain injury, and I had 3 children I didn't know what to do with. If I were thinking more clearly, I would have said, pile into the ambulance, guys. We're going to the hospital. But I couldn't do that. It wasn't until 3 weeks later the neck fracture was diagnosed. I was in California at the time, and I was coming out to Utah to BYU for a 3-week seminar.
Oh, yes.
And I fortunately had packed my suitcase. Otherwise, I would have just walked out of the door in whatever I had on my body. And I couldn't even figure out how to finish packing it. My neck was hurting.
Was the same day you were leaving?
The day after.
The day after.
My neck was hurting, so I wanted my pillow. And that was really important to me. And so I'm checking stuff out of the suitcase, just whatever, I don't care. And I just had to fit my pillow in. That was really important. And I remember that being really important.
Interesting.
And now I think, well, that was silly. But my brain was not working the way it was meant to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the end of the 3 weeks that my husband understood that I had a brain injury. He looked at me and he said, "You're not right." I was getting lost on campus. I'd been to campus many, many times. I couldn't hold my head up with the structure of my neck. I had to hold my head up with my hands.
Oh my goodness.
Or rest it on the table behind me on my backpack.
You were probably in a lot of pain, too.
I was in a lot of pain. I was in classes. I had horrendous headaches. I couldn't see. My eyes weren't focusing together. I was just grateful I didn't have any tests in that time.
Yeah.
I did, however, have the presentation of my final project.
Oh my gosh.
And it was the night before at about 9:30. I thought, I haven't done anything towards that. Maybe I should.
Wow.
So I did. It was a novel. Fortunately, I didn't do anything too technical. It was a novel I'd written. And I went and picked up classic novels. Not that mine was anywhere near that good.
Right.
But I got books and talked about something for an hour and a half. I don't know. It went well. I passed. It went well. People complimented it. I think that was words coming to my head from other sources. It was not me.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So it was amazing. And then when I got home after that time period, I got diagnosed for all the things.
Wow. And how's that affected your life? How old were you when that happened?
Well, it was 25 years ago. I'm going to be 60 on Friday.
Okay.
I don't do math anymore. So
35.
there you go.
There you go. I can still do some math.
I lost math. I literally lost math. I couldn't even dial a telephone. And I mean, it wasn't even dialing. It was the push button deal.
Wow.
I couldn't do it.
Wow.
Because I'd see the number and I'd try to do the proper numbers on the keypad. Hello, may I talk to Mrs. Smith? This isn't the Smith's house. Like, okay, I call back. Can I talk to Mrs. Smith? This isn't the Smith's house. Kunk. Like, called the third time. Can you tell me what I did wrong? No. Thanks a lot.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't do math.
Numbers are not making any sense to
No.
me. So did it come back then? Do you feel
No.
Did it heal? No.
No.
Never
the
did.
math never really came back. I mean, it did to some extent, but not what I knew before.
Interesting.
I never was a huge lover of math, but dialing the telephone and really practical uses of numbers was hard to lose.
Did you have to practice that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you were able to get it back. So there is healing from a traumatic brain injury, but it takes time and
There's
a lot of
healing
effort.
And there are workarounds.
So has it affected other like
Yes.
memory?
I couldn't read for months.
Wow.
I was really, really praying for that to come back because I'm an avid reader.
Yeah.
And
what about listening to books? Like if you were to listen to a book, you could still visualize?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a focusing issue, both mental focusing and visual focusing that were the problem.
Okay.
And I can still, if I read something, I can remember where on the page it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been able to do that. And I can still do that. But that's a different skill.
Okay.
Memory is still an issue. I have to use a lot of adaptations.
Tools?
Yeah,
Okay.
tools. Thank you. Writing things down, putting them in my phone now that I have a phone that does that. When it first happened, of course, I didn't have a phone that could do that.
Right.
So I had to write notes and make lists and all of that. On the days that I didn't feel like I was terribly productive, and I still do this, I think, what in the world did I do today? So I sit down and I write a list backwards. I did this, I did
All
this,
the
I did
things
this,
you
I
did.
did that. That way I think, okay, it wasn't a total waste. I just didn't sit and stare at
I think
this.
that's actually a really great idea. Look at the things that you have done
Right.
instead of what you didn't get crossed off
Yes.
of your list. So,
And I don't do today's to-dos.
okay.
I do to-do.
To do.
So if I don't do it today, it doesn't matter.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there might be things I have to get done, like my dentist appointment earlier today. I had to be there.
Right.
And other things, if you don't get it done, it mostly doesn't matter.
Yeah. Nobody really cares so much as you do.
Right.
So that is a very true statement. Well, how did it affect you being able to be an advocate for yourself in your circumstances because of what you had seen with your own children?
I have 3 children, and they all had serious medical needs. The first one, I was almost 20 when I had her.
Okay.
So I was young
Uh-huh.
still. And whatever the doctors said, I believed. And I thought the doctors know best.
Mm-hmm.
And they know a lot more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot more now than I did then.
Yeah.
But I would do what they said and not really question it. When she was an infant, we thought that she was a genius. She has cerebral palsy, which affects all of her muscles. And she also had an insufficiency of oxygen. She didn't breathe for 10 minutes when she was born.
Oh my goodness.
She had a mucus plug in her throat.
Uh-huh.
And they worked for quite a while trying to get her breathing, which they did. But at the first, we didn't know what the problem was. She also was born having meningitis. And so that affected her brain.
Oh, Candace, you must have been so scared.
I was scared. When she was born, I had just pushed her out, and they're saying, we have a problem. In fact, they got on the phone and said, we have a bad baby. Like,
What would you think?
how was she bad? She hasn't had time to do anything yet.
Exactly.
And she
And this
looks.
is your oldest child, too.
This is my first baby. I'm not even 20 yet. I'm laying there like, okay, well, I don't mind that you've left me because that is far more important.
Yeah.
I mean, they left. Everybody left me. I'm just there. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And so they said, we have a bad baby. And literally 15 people came running into the room.
Wow.
And she looked like, you know, when you got a whole chicken from the grocery and it's kind of a pasty yellowish color.
Yeah, right.
She looked like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
she
that's
was
so scary.
She was not even gray. She was past gray.
Wow.
And I thought, yeah, you guys take care of that.
Yep.
And they finally got her breathing. And then they just took her away, which of course also was appropriate. And I knew that. It wasn't like I was hysterical. I could see what was happening. I could see they were handling it. Nothing I could do.
Right.
Even if I could stand up at that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm kind of tethered here.
Uh-huh.
And then they said I could go see her if I could go into the NICU on my own power.
Okay.
And I had a 16-hour labor.
16
and
hours.
It wasn't just 16 hours of, this is getting stronger. It was transitional labor for 16 hours. I was exhausted.
Wow. Why do you think it took so long? Like, what was going on?
Well, my water had broken at around 11 o'clock the night before she was born.
Okay.
And I knew it was around 11 because we were watching the nightly news.
Okay.
And so we called the hospital and said, what should we do?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you should come in because once the water breaks, you only have a certain period of time where it's healthy for the baby
to come.
Mm-hmm. And so they said, come on down. So we did. It was about half an hour from our house. And I wasn't even really laboring at that point, but they said, we've got to move things along. So they gave me Pitocin. My body responds really strongly to Pitocin that causes the contractions. And I don't go from here's a little bit of labor and kind of like a natural labor. I found out what natural labor is like when I had my third child. I thought, why is everybody complaining? Because that was a gradual thing and it gets tense for a little bit there at the end. But this was transitional 1 minute apart contractions for 16 hours. So I was exhausted.
Oh my goodness.
So they said I had to be able to walk from the room to see her.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't see her. And so I walked and I didn't tell them, I think I'm going to pass out the whole time I'm looking at her because the NICU was kept quite toasty warm.
Crazy. They wouldn't even put you in a wheelchair.
No, I had to be able to ambulate on my own.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did. I'm like, I am going.
Yeah. I'm going to go see my daughter.
If I pass out in that room, you can pick me up.
Especially if she had problems. You were probably really worried she wouldn't make it.
I was. And we didn't know. It was touch and go for quite a while. And finally, they said, you've got to go, but we'll keep her. And so we traveled back every day, and I'd spend the day there. They were interesting, though. I was nursing her, and they didn't feel any need to feed me. Like, well, I'm providing the food. You're not feeding her, so I should get some food. Yeah. We didn't have any money then, so I pretty much starved during the days.
Oh, my goodness.
That was fun, too.
Yeah.
But when I left the hospital, they give you these kind of sample packs of things when you leave. And they gave me like 4 of them as a consolation prize for leaving without a child and not being sure if y'all ever have one. I think if you're not sure I'm going to end up with a child, why are you giving me these diapers and formulas and all this stuff? But anyway, they were doing the best they could.
Nothing else to give you,
they couldn't do anything else. Yeah. They were doing the best they could. And maybe that was to help me feel hopeful that they think that she's going to get home.
How long was she in the hospital?
She was in the hospital about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
Once the meningitis subsided, then we could take her home.
Okay. Wow. And so then how long was it after that you realized she had cerebral palsy?
She was diagnosed at 12 months. Okay. And it was really only because my mom said, I've kind of waited for her to catch up. But like I said, I was young and it was my first infant that I'd ever really cared for. I'd cared for babies growing up, babysitting and nannying and stuff. But I had never cared for an infant before.
Okay.
So I didn't realize the things that she wasn't doing were so obvious.
Okay.
Now I think, oh yeah, I would know that now.
Yeah.
But I didn't. My mom said she's not developing the way that she should. You really need to get her evaluated.
Okay.
And we did. And she was diagnosed then with cerebral palsy. And it was later that she was diagnosed with some cognitive deficits also.
Okay, because of the oxygen depletion. Okay. I see. Okay.
Cerebral palsy is a generic term for any kind of disconnect between the brain and the muscles.
Okay.
And it's not hereditary. People have asked me that. Do all your kids have it? No, because it's not. It's usually caused by an accident of some kind at birth or within the first year or so.
Okay. So the meningitis is a likely culprit. Plus maybe the oxygen depletion too added to it.
It's hard to say exactly what does what, but they told us that the cognition had more to do with oxygen deficit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But she's been able to be pretty successful. She's a pretty sendy mom.
She is a sendy mom. She is incredible. They at one point told us we should institutionalize her. And I said, not on my watch.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that we didn't. We kind of had gotten the idea that we would be responsible for her throughout her life. But we're not. She actually went on a mission for our church. And she was called to a full-time regular mission in Texas.
Wow.
I thought she'd be called to a local mission, live at home and just kind of toddle off and do her thing. She walks now. She can't run really, but she walks. She was able to walk when she was independently when she was about 5. Wow. Before that, she wasn't walking, and there are all kinds of experiences related to getting her to walking. Many, many, many hours of physical therapy, both at home and with
office. Physical
therapists, yes. But now, skipping a whole bunch of years, she just turned 40. She is the mother. She's been married for 16 years and is the mother of 6 children.
6 children! That's incredible.
Her husband also has cerebral palsy.
The 2 of them. Oh my goodness.
There are miracles with him every step of the way.
Wow. It makes me kind of teary a little bit. Like when you set your mind to something, you can accomplish great things.
And I think that's the way in which I'm sendy.
Yeah.
I've taught my children that you face your challenges with faith and courage, and you look for the lessons in the things that you go through. You don't turn to bitterness. You don't turn to anger or finger pointing. There was a lot of finger pointing that we saw in the cerebral palsy community.
Okay.
One parent would say, well, if you hadn't done this, or if you hadn't done that, or if you only did this to care for this child, then we wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's no point in that. That doesn't help with growth or development of your person, of your emotional, spiritual being that you are.
Well, and especially if it's something in the past, there's nothing you can do about it. Like all that breeds is resentment and anger, and that's not healthy for anyone. So,
no.
Yeah, no, I love the way that you have taught your children to just move forward, to take what you've been given and look for the good in it, and then move forward from wherever you are. That's resilience. That is exactly what resilience is.
We're about halfway through this episode of the Sendy Mom podcast. Our mission at Sendy Mom is to build, lift, encourage, persuade, and inspire women to live fearlessly. This is my passion. I hope you feel that from this interview and every interview. My guests and their friends and family have enjoyed having the recordings to keep as a family record. They aren't easy to put together, but it has been a great joy, and I have loved getting to know some incredible people. Help me put more positive messages and energy into the world by sharing this episode, reviewing it, and liking it. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and online at sendymom.com. There is way too much negativity out there. Let's do more to encourage and inspire. I have an incredible lineup of women who will be aired in the next few months. Please keep coming back to hear more stories of courage and triumph. Our next guest has run the Bear 100 5 times. This is a race that takes over 24 hours to complete because it is 100 miles through the mountains. You don't finish a race like this without pain. These are inspiring stories, folks. Be sure to join me in 2 weeks for my inspiring chat with Allison Stratton. Our Sunday Spotlight next week will be on Clara Hale. Have you ever heard of her? I am really excited to research this incredible woman. Clara founded the Hale House in New York City in 1969. She took in infants that were affected by drug addiction and later HIV/AIDS. She eventually helped to expand her foundation to help over 1,000 children. She was an incredibly kind and charitable woman and is a great Sunday mom to highlight following Candace's episode. That will come out next week as a bonus episode. I am trying something to honor my conversation with Rachel. She told me that women have a tendency to undervalue their contribution. So this is me trying not to undervalue myself. If you are enjoying this podcast, consider subscribing on Apple Podcasts to it. It's only $2.99 a month or $29.99 for the year. Try the first month for free and see how you like it. The next bonus episode will only be available to subscribers on Apple Podcasts, so head over there to hear the whole thing. All of my Sunday Mom interviews will always be free, and subscribing on sundayMom.com is always free. To receive an update every time a new episode is added and for special bonus content, just subscribe at sundayMom.com. Check out my blog there that accompanies each of the episodes. I started out just putting show notes there, but now I have full-on lessons learned. Check out the companion article for this episode to find out how Candace inspires me and how you can apply her tools to your own life. You can also find out how you can be on the Sunday Mom podcast. Having Sunday Mom tea parties will help to overcome the mental health crisis in the world. Women need other women. Start talking. Be honest. Comparison can be the thief of joy, but it can also help you realize that you are normal. We all have struggles. The more we feel comfortable talking to each other, the closer we become and the more we can see the beauty in each soul. Let me know if you are having a Sunday Mom event and I can publish it on my social channels. Also, if you are interested in promoting things that would be useful to my community, please contact me at Becky@SundayMom.com. I would love to talk to you. Candace is an incredible example of strength and resilience. She is a quiet example of confidence. I am so grateful to know her. If you have enjoyed the first half of this podcast, just wait for the end of it. You will be amazed at her quiet confidence. Please enjoy the rest of our conversation. It's incredible.
So tell me, because your other kids had some issues as well.
My second child had been sick a lot with ear infections, and he had thrush, and he had all these different infectious kind of illnesses mostly. Mm-hmm. He also suffered with depression. And instead of going the official pharmaceutical route, mm-hmm. he decided to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol, which ended up taking his life.
Wow. Sometimes it's important to seek medical help for mm-hmm. those kinds of things.
Definitely. And I talked to him about that. I said, I know that you struggle with depression. It would really help you if you were to go to the doctor and get an antidepressant or anti-anxiety mm-hmm. or whatever it is you need. And the ironic thing that he said to me was, I don't want to get addicted to it. And then later he chose far more addictive things.
Yeah. Yeah. So but he was well into his teenage years. Mm-hmm. At some point there's not a whole lot you can do.
Exactly. And we had gotten to that point right. mm-hmm. where I couldn't force it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me his story. I know his story, but we need mm-hmm. my community to know too.
Right. He started drinking at some point in his early teens. I didn't know that. I actually found out when he was an older teen. And then he started taking different drugs too. And he said that it was heroin that he knew was going to be his Achilles heel. Mm. He said, from the first moment I took it, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get away from it. He tried repeatedly. He went to counseling. He went to get the methadone treatments. He did a lot of different things. He tried cold turkey. He tried all different things.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work for him. He had stopped using, and then he had a stroke. His whole left side was paralyzed, and he lost his job as a result of being unable to do it. He was trying to become a butcher, and you can see the practical reasons that paralysis would cause a problem as a butcher. Mm-hmm. And so they let him go. He was just barely had started doing it, and he thought it would be a neat career for him. But so he became depressed and used again. The last time he used, as is often the case when people overdose and it kills them, is that he hadn't been taking him for a while, and it was too much for his system. He was always, apparently, from those who used with him, they said that they were always worried about him because it took a lot less for him
to kind of like you, I guess.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah, to have a greater effect.
Wow.
And so he overdosed, and I found him in his room.
Oh, Candace.
It was not easy, but I wasn't alone in that room. I wasn't. And as far as overdoses go, I was grateful that he was in his room, because a lot of times if people overdose and they're with their friends, they chuck them on the side of the road or different things. And I might not have ever known what happened.
Yeah. Oh.
And I found him, and not my daughter, Alicia. She heard the television in his room that morning and was going to say goodbye to him before she left. And she felt a physical push not to open the door 3 times.
Wow.
And she said, okay, I'm getting it.
Yeah.
And she left. And then I was the one that found her. If she had found him, he was not looking very good at that point. He'd been dead for some time. And I won't describe it.
Yeah.
But it was very obvious that he was gone.
Yeah.
And having been trained working in the police department and with the coroner's office and thing when I was younger, I know you report it.
Yeah.
I wish I had spent more time with his body before I did.
Yeah.
Things weren't going to change.
Right.
He was very clearly gone. And I wish I had done that. So
I think in those circumstances, sometimes you just go into autopilot.
Yeah.
And you knew what to do. So you just call and take care of it.
Yeah. In future, I would, if I am with someone that dies, and I've been with someone that dies, or find someone, I would spend more time, because you can feel a spirit there, and that's tender. But anyway, I called and they said, well, do you know how to do CPR? I said, yes, I do, but there is no chance. He's gone. I promise you, 100%.
Yeah.
He's gone. But you can only find your son dead once.
Yeah.
And then he's not struggling with that anymore.
Yeah. And that's really the attitude that you had during that whole time, was that he's not struggling. And I'm grateful that he has an opportunity to progress where he can progress.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's really beautiful. And and he's not forgotten.
Oh, no,
he's
not. And I'm not saying that it was like, oh, he's dead, oh, whatever, and walk off.
Right.
We were sad. We were, but it's missing the person who's gone.
Yeah.
Being sad that he couldn't solve his problem.
Yeah.
And that he had to struggle with it.
Yeah. So how did the grieving process look for you?
It was mostly the missing. I mean, when I found him, I just said, oh, no. I didn't scream. I didn't, it was just like, I didn't want it to end this way.
Did you go through the grieving process? Like, because you hear about this grieving process of denial and bargaining, and can't remember, and then to the acceptance finally. Did you feel like you went through that at all, or not?
There was no bargaining. I mean, what was I going to?
Yeah.
There was nothing. But the initial thing that I remember feeling with various people that have died that I've known is, you're walking in the world, you're making these choices, especially when it's unexpected. You have to choose a coffin, you have to go buy a plot at the cemetery, you have to do all these things, and you're just kind of walking zombie-like. Yeah. And then you see the rest of the world going on. Right. Like, well, my world's just falling apart. What's going on for you? How come you're not understanding the pain that we're feeling? Yeah. And obviously knowing that that's ridiculous. They don't know who I am.
Yeah. And what did you want at that time? What would you hope from people?
Well, I got what I wanted, and surrounded by a community of people who literally and figuratively put their arms around us.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not in the coroner's van, and as soon as the ambulance and the police came, neighbors were coming to say, what can I do?
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful community.
Yeah. And that helps when others are mourning, because then you know what to do, what really resonated. One thing that happened immediately, we have a neighbor who lives next door. She's very shy. She doesn't want to infringe on anybody. But she came to the door. She kept feeling like, I need to go to the door. I need to go in and do something. She came. She was the first one. But I was sitting with, there's a grief counselor liaison who's from the police department. And when there's a death of any kind, she'll come and she'll sit with you. And we have this bench that's a little ways inside the front door. And I was sitting on the bench with her. And this neighbor came in. It's Lori.
Right.
And she came in and she said, I don't know what it is, but I need to do something for you. What can I do? And at that time, I was contacting people, telling them
what had happened,
that he had passed. But there was one person I didn't want to do that with a phone call or a text. And that was Alicia, our daughter.
Yeah.
And she was up in Salt Lake at work. And I said, you know what's going to help the most is if you go up to Salt Lake, get Alicia, be with her while I call her. And she was. And that was, I don't know how I would have done it without that. And then people brought over food, and you don't want to eat after something like that happens. You don't care. It's like, I'm not hungry. But people brought food. Things that were really most helpful were just granola and little things you can just take a handful because you know you have to eat something, but you don't want to spend the time making it. Or some people brought over platters with meat and bread, and we could make sandwiches. And then, you know, everybody comes into town. You're not going to want to cook. So people were bringing all that stuff. And that was wonderful. As far as strangers on the street, I don't have any expectation that they would say, oh, you must have lost someone here. Let me hug you. But it's just surreal when you're in that place.
Yeah, but it is, you know, it's a good reminder that people on the street are going through things. There was, I read a book a long time ago. I think it was Mary Ellen Edmonds or something about love is a verb. Or no, yeah, love is a verb. I think that's what it's called. And she talks about sitting in a crowded place and just looking at people and imagining things about them. And so I've done that several times where I just sit there and I look at people and I think, oh, he just lost his job and he is really stressed about trying to find something because his wife is pregnant. Or that girl, she just got engaged and she must be so happy. And so trying to imagine these kinds of things helps you to develop empathy.
Yeah, you're creating empathy. One of the things I taught my children to create that, there were many examples for my son being sandwiched between two girls with special needs, and I'll get to Alicia's in a little bit, but is that he could learn empathy. And it's not like you just throw him in there and hope for the best. You teach those moments.
Yeah.
And when we were in the store, one of the times there was a lady who was just not very kind to her daughter. And I thought, wow, she's a horrible parent. And I thought, no. You don't know anything about what's happened before that. And she could have just lost her husband. She could have no money. And this child's been asking for everything because that's what kids do in the store. Oh, I want M&Ms. I want this cereal, I want whatever. She may have been asking for every single thing along the way that they couldn't afford. I don't know anything about it. She wasn't physically harming her child, and she wasn't even being particularly verbally bad. She was just really impatient. And I said to myself, I don't know what's going on. And then when we got further away from where she was doing that, I said to my kids, did you notice that lady who was not being very nice to her daughter? And they all did.
Yeah.
I said, I told them what I had thought to myself. I said, we need to give everybody grace and know that we don't know what's going on, what she's facing, or what she's been experiencing in the last 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever
Yeah.
of her life that made her feel this way. I mean, granted, she could be that way always, but we don't know that. And it doesn't matter. We're not going to judge her on what we just saw.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's a really good lesson to teach your children and for yourself too. And that's called charity. Candace, you're just such a good example of charity, because we don't know. I mean, I think about, the things that you talked about with racism and prejudice and whatever, and the way that you're able to turn things around to be able to see the good in everyone, and that we're all still just learning. So, okay, tell me about Alicia.
Alicia had a seizure disorder. She actually was having seizures in utero, which put me into preterm labor at 4 months.
Did you know this?
We didn't know what it was. We knew
Okay.
there was a problem.
Did you feel like when she would have a seizure or
No,
anything like that?
I couldn't feel it.
Okay.
Well, and at 4 months, she was so
she's not-
small, I wouldn't have
that's
felt
true.
it anyway.
That's true. Mhm.
Even later, I don't recall feeling anything, but was causing contractions.
Okay.
So I was put on 5 wonderful months of bed rest
Wow.
with 2 other children with lots of problems.
Did they know that you were having contractions because of her seizures?
No, they
Okay.
didn't know why.
Yeah.
But we found that bed rest
Stopped
solved
them.
it.
Okay.
So I got quite large. I became kind of a blueberry shape. At least it felt like that. So anyway, and then
I cannot see you as a blueberry, but yes, I believe it.
I wasn't blue.
Because if you're not exercising at all, like
No.
not even walking.
No, just to the bathroom or
Yeah.
to I wasn't really in a bed. I was on a couch at my mother-in-law's house watching her do things with my children. Like, no, don't do that. But I had to just let it go because
You needed the help.
I needed the help. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like anything dangerous. It's just, we don't do it that way.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch that, but I had to. Anyway, she had seizures. I was on the bed rest. We didn't know what the problem was. And then it was time to leave the hospital the next day. And she looked a little bit cold. My husband, I was holding her so that she was kind of facing out. And I was talking to my husband. And he glanced over and he said, she looks a little cold. So I was kind of tucking her in with the blanket. And her lips were turning blue, like someone had been in the pool too long, the children in the cold.
Yeah.
And the nurse walked in at that moment, which was good because then she all of a sudden started turning quite blue and her outfit was about this color.
Wow.
And she was matching it.
Matching the outfit. Oh my goodness.
I remember that because we had put her in this cute little outfit, which I got rid of after that because I didn't want to look at that outfit and think of her that blue.
No.
Anyway, they took her to the NICU. Put her on oxygen and all. And while she was in the NICU, she was having seizures. And so they knew that she had a problem. And it was during her seizures, she would stop breathing.
Stop breathing. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I see.
So actually, she wasn't even having an obvious seizure at that time. We didn't know what it was. That's right. She was turning blue. She stopped breathing a number of times. She was in the hospital a couple of weeks also. And for about 24 hours, she didn't stop breathing for 24 hours. And the doctor said, okay, she's fine. You can take her home. This is where I started talking to the doctor like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know a lot now.
Right.
I've learned a few things, not the least of which is that you're not perfect.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, let me get this straight. I mean, because by then I was almost 24.
Yeah.
So, I was old.
Well, and you had 2 children.
I had 2 children who had a lot of needs, and I'd learned that you have to speak up.
Yep.
I said, you're telling me that she has continued to breathe for 24 hours in a row. This is a child who's about 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
And she's continued to breathe for 24 hours after having spent all that other time not breathing the whole time. And you're saying she's okay to take home. I said, okay, here's what's going to happen. We're going to either figure out why she's not breathing periodically, or at the very least, you're going to give me a apnea monitor to take home.
Yeah.
So I can know if she stops breathing and can take appropriate action.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so we waited another day or two until they can get their act together and get me the monitor. And we had to be trained in CPR. I'm the one that knows these things. That's why Anyway, I said, okay, yeah.
You do have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, but we had to be trained. That was a box that had to be checked. So she stopped breathing a number of times, but usually just a little flick on the foot or pick her up, and she would start breathing again.
So it's not like she was like going rigid.
No, not at that point.
Okay.
She was 6 weeks old when we found out it was seizures.
Okay.
At that time, we were visiting at my mother-in-law's house, and the 2 older kids were in the bath. Okay. My sister-in-law was in the bathroom, and she was holding Alicia facing out from her. So she was mostly looking at the children in the water. And she had been kind of tickling her feet, and, you know, Alicia was responding. And then suddenly she wasn't responding anymore. So she took her and turned her around and saw that she was starting to turn blue.
Oh, wow.
She had been awake. And then she suddenly was turning blue. Yeah. And at that point, we thought, wait, she wasn't asleep, because we were expecting it was sleep apnea. Yeah. Not wake apnea.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I had been on the phone with the doctor at that moment, because her alarms kept going off that day for no apparent reason. Okay. Yes. And so I said, there's something wrong today. This isn't the way things are normally. And my sister-in-law brought Alicia into the kitchen where I was using the phone and said, we've got a problem. And so I said, doctor, she's not breathing. I need to hang up and call the emergency. Yeah. And then the line wouldn't cut. He didn't end his part of it, and it wouldn't end. It wouldn't end. Would you hang up the phone or whatever? Disconnect.
So frustrating.
And then anyway, so the ambulance came. We were giving her CPR, and it wasn't working terribly well, but it was apparently working well enough. Later, we found out she was still alive and she still had brain activity. Wow. So, but the ambulance came. I went to the hospital with them, and then we spent another 2 fun-filled weeks at the hospital waiting for her to have another seizure. Wow. To prove it was a seizure. Yeah. Of course, it didn't happen. But based on what had happened, they medicated her for seizures. Okay. She was medicated for seizures for about 16 years of her life. Wow. But just before she turned 9, I had been doing research to find out if there's anything we could do other than giving her the medications. I felt like I was giving her poison every day. Yeah. I mean, it's not poison. It's a pharmaceutical designed specifically to not do seizures. But still, I felt like I'm giving her all this to prevent this. There's got to be another way.
There's another way. Yeah.
And there is. And I found, long before the internet, through research of different types, an epilepsy research foundation, one in the world that did it. Okay. And it was 10 minutes away from our home.
That's incredible. What's the name of this organization?
Andrews Ritter Epilepsy Foundation.
And are they still around? Okay.
There may be other people that do it now, but at the time, they were the only ones in the world that used biofeedback to train the brain.
Okay, so tell me about biofeedback.
What they did, I don't know if it's the exact way for every time, but what you're doing is you have a lot of electrodes on your head to track your brain waves. Okay. And then those waves are demonstrated on a little TV screen. And what would happen is you would see what waves were happening. And there are certain wave sequences that cause seizures. Okay. I don't remember now what they are. But they trained the patient, in this case, Alicia, how to adjust the brain waves through her thought.
Through her thought.
And controlling of emotion.
So basically they can see the brain waves on the screen, and she's watching that at the same time. And then they say, okay, look, this is one that's going to start a seizure. Now I want you to like calm yourself. Or
right. And Alicia actually could tell when she was going to have a seizure. She had seizures with an aura. Okay. Just like a migraine with an aura, you know it's going to happen. Her seizures, she could tell, she could feel were going to happen. Okay. And so she could usually get herself into a safe place to have the seizure. before it happened. Some people just go into a seizure and they just collapse.
Right.
She didn't do that. She could find a second to lay down or sit down or whatever.
And have the seizure, be done with it.
And she is semi-conscious after, before, and
so
during.
That made her a really good candidate to be able to learn how to control it.
Right. Even though she was very young. It was at that time, it was over $30,000 to do the program.
Wow.
But insurance would pay for it under certain circumstances.
Okay.
So they sent a request to the insurance company, will you pay for this? She's a good candidate. These are the reasons. And they said no. She's under 9.
Okay.
And she was, but not by much. And then she wrote a letter back saying, no, really, these are the reasons. She is stubborn. She understands how it feels to have a seizure. She gets it, even though she's young.
Right.
She really can do this. And finally they said yes. And so they covered it.
Wow.
It's the only one in the world paid for by our insurance. And she was an excellent candidate. She went the first time. After that, she had maybe 2 seizures. And she was having multiple seizures a day.
Wow.
She was semi-conscious for almost 9 years because she's either about to have a seizure, having a seizure, or having just had a seizure.
Oh, gosh.
So she was delayed in many aspects of her life.
I don't imagine she could have even gone to school.
She did.
She did? She went to school. Did she have seizures while I guess if she knew they were coming, she could just leave the room. Did she have an IEP?
Didn't leave the room. She did. She had an IEP because she was delayed in a lot of areas because she'd also lost her speech when she had seizures. So she couldn't talk for sometimes weeks at a time. She would forget things that she had learned. But I would talk to each teacher, say she usually keeps breathing now with seizures, that she's medicated. She doesn't usually stop breathing, but she does need a safe place to lie down. But she knows when she's going to have a seizure, so she can get her floor mat and put it out. Or if she's in a chair, she's okay. She had a lot of absence seizures at school where she is there and she's sitting up. She may even have her eyes open, but she's not there.
Wow.
Or she'd do like movements with her mouth or different things. She didn't have that many grand mal seizures, the kinds of things that people think about where you're flailing on the ground.
Right, yeah.
She didn't have a lot of those. She did have one that caused injury just because it happened more suddenly. She was actually leaving the room. The one time we had a babysitter, she had a seizure and hit her head and got a gash this big.
Oh,
anyway, but she was trying to leave the room and she found the only sharp spot on the wall.
Darn it. Yeah.
Anyway, but she knew when it was going to happen so she could get to a safe place.
So with all of your children who had some of these conditions, did they have a difficult time socially growing up? Were people unkind to them?
They weren't. And that was by design. I would go into the classrooms and talk to the children and say, this is the situation.
Yeah.
With Michelle, with her cerebral palsy, she would go to her tutoring for English or whatever she was doing at the time, her special ed class. And I would go in with a leg brace, and say, Michelle wears these leg braces. And let me talk to you about why and how she's different and how you can be a good helper and help her. And so it wouldn't just be I don't know what's wrong. She's weird. We're going to make fun of her.
Yeah.
And she's very kind. And so is Alicia. And they both are really good, kind people. People wanted to help.
Yeah.
Because we didn't allow bitterness. We said, the whole thing about we're going to find the positives in this. We're going to see the progress. We're going to do all this. We're not going to sit in the corner and be bitter about what we can't do.
Yeah.
We're going to keep working and we're going to get better and we're going to do all that we can and we're going to be kind. And if someone offers to help us and we'd like to help, we'll say, yes, thank you, or no, thank you.
Yeah.
We're not going to go off the rails and, why do you think
right.
There's not going to be any of that. We're going to accept the kindness.
Well, and what a wonderful community that really rallied around.
It really did.
Kids.
A really great example is when Michelle was in 6th grade and they had to do the presidential mile run.
Okay.
She couldn't do the run. She was walking independently, but she was not a runner because her feet go weird and she doesn't have the strength. Her cerebral palsy is spastic diplegic. She's got paralysis on one side and spasticity in all of her muscles.
Wow.
And so running wasn't really a thing.
So that means that they kind of go of their own accord.
Yeah.
You can't control them.
Well, yes, kind of. But spasticity also causes rigidity and contractures and things like that.
Okay.
A lot of extra tension in the tendons and muscles.
Okay.
Anyway, so they were all doing the run, and you do it progressively, you do it throughout the year, and then you have the test.
Right.
And nobody expected her to run a mile, and she didn't. But she ran little bits here and walked and ran a little bit here. I mean, I'm talking 10 feet.
Yeah.
And then at the end, everybody else was finished, of course, at that point. And at the end, her classmates made an arbor, or I don't know what it's called, a little tunnel with their arms.
Yeah, tunnel with their arms, yeah.
And they were there with her as she ran through. They're cheering and they're clapping, and well, I guess they weren't clapping, they had their hands up. But anyway, they're cheering for her and saying, "You did it, you did it."
Wow.
And that community was developed intentionally through these things that we did. But we created that community.
Yeah.
And there wasn't ambiguity. There wasn't, why is she different?
And there wasn't resentment or anger on your part. Why can't they just understand her or anything? It was an acceptance of she's going to be different. So I'm going to go and explain why she's different. It sounds like there was some really good teaching going on in those homes of those children too, where they were accepting and loving.
Yes, I'm sure
that
that's
doesn't always
true.
happen.
And it was encouraged by the staff there. I worked at that school. That helped because the staff knew me and they knew my children.
Yeah.
And it was a community where we all lived near each other. It wasn't kids coming from across town and stuff. So we saw each other in the stores. We saw each other.
Yeah.
And so it was just, it has to do with the attitude of the people involved.
Yeah.
And you have to just really take each other for the way they are. And I did that with those children, and they did it with my children, and it was just
amazing. And Alicia hasn't had any more seizures after that.
After that first couple, after the first treatment, no, she maintained medication through puberty. And we kept saying, "Can you just do it early so we can get you off this medicine?"
For real.
She didn't. She was kind of a late bloomer in those terms. And once she had several cycles, they said, "Okay," because puberty can increase seizure activity.
Oh,
and so they wanted to make sure she made it through.
Yeah, safely. Yeah, and then she hasn't had to. And she, tell me about what she's doing now.
She is working at Huntsman Cancer Hospital. She's a patient liaison or something.
Okay.
She helps to coordinate care for patients at Huntsman.
Wow.
For the things that they need.
Wow.
Be it durable medical goods or medications or whatever.
Yeah, but has been able to be successful.
She's been very successful, and part of it is the empathy that she gained throughout life, and the understanding that people have challenges seen and unseen.
Yeah. So what about you? What are your crossroads maybe that you're at right now? What are some things that you are hoping for in your future? Is there anything that you're looking forward to? Or
I'm looking forward to being empty nesters again. Currently, we have a number of elderly in our house.
That's true. Yeah.
The parents, my mother-in-law now, and my father-in-law recently passed. My mom and stepfather are with us full time.
Okay.
My mom has pretty advanced Parkinson's, and she's 80. My stepdad's 85, so has some associated things with olderness.
And I'm sure, it comes with its both sides of grateful that you're able to take care of them, but at the same time, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and she has some Lewy body dementia with it because that's common with Parkinson's. So the dementia is hard. The physical changes are hard.
Yeah. So are you pretty much homebound?
Not entirely. We now have some visiting angels who come in twice a week, 3 hours a day, or those 2 days. And so we just take turns. We tag team.
Okay. Yeah. But that is full time. I mean, if you're not taking care of your children, you're taking care of your parents, I guess. That's how it goes. So I do have a few rapid fire questions as we're kind of finishing this up. So I'm wondering, what has brought you joy in the last 24 hours?
Getting my crown on my tooth.
Sometimes you're waiting for a long time for those things to get done, but
no, what actually one of the things is the activity we had last night. We had that super service event.
Yeah.
And it was really neat to see all the things that people are offering to serve those in need. And it's kind of really sort of something that's up my alley in terms of special needs, since, as you know, but your listeners won't necessarily, that we were trying to raise money for
Spectrum
Academy for autism, and they need overhangs or pergolas. Yes. And so we were doing that. It was really great to see not only all the people in our neighborhood and visit with them, but also to see all the generous hearts that we have.
Yeah. And Spectrum Academy is a charter school for kids who have autism. And it was really neat to hear Becky Kimball. I'm going to have to get her on this show too. She's amazing. Talking about what it's like to have autism. She has 4 children who are autistic and has just been diagnosed. No, her and her husband were just diagnosed as autistic as well. So she kind of talked about what it's like to be autistic. And then she talked about what Spectrum Academy does to help kids who have that.
Right. And we learned that people come from different states to attend.
Yeah.
Because it's so unique.
Yeah.
And that's good. And as she was talking about stimulation, I was sitting there swinging my foot and spinning my ring. I thought, yeah, I do that. But
maybe
it's interesting. I don't think I'm autistic, but maybe I am. I don't know.
We're all on the spectrum.
Yeah, somewhere.
That's really where it comes down to it. Is my mom likes to say that all the time. She hates labeling people. And so she doesn't like, giving people a diagnosis of something. She says, well, we're all on the spectrum somewhere, right? And so I think we are, but some obviously have got a lot more.
Yeah. I found that one day that I thought I had missed Relief Society.
Oh.
And so I was up in our loft. We have a loft upstairs and you can see down from there. And I was saying, I missed Relief Society. I missed Relief Society. I was spinning around in a circle. And my kids are like, are you okay?
What is going on?
I missed Relief Society. And then I looked at the calendar. I hadn't yet missed it. But
crazy.
That was another thing I was doing, just going around in circles with that. This isn't even that big a deal. I mean, it was kind of a big deal.
But for you,
it was a big deal. And I was kind of freaking out a little bit about missing a Relief Society and going around in a circle. And they're like, are you all right?
Yeah.
Like, no.
So we all have our moments. And so I think it's really good to have some empathy and to understand when people are having their moments like that. So it was a really great activity.
It was.
That was a joy for me too. Tell me about a book that you've read recently.
I've been reading books by Ben Behunin.
Okay.
It's a series about the Potter of Niederbip. Okay. There is actually a place called Niederbip.
Okay.
But only the pure in heart can find it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you can go to that city and not find Niederbip.
Okay.
Unless you have a pure heart and are willing to grow and learn. And that's why I like it. He's got a couple of series, and he's actually a potter in Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay.
I went recently to his pottery just because I found out it was in Salt Lake. I didn't know that when I first read it. The book I found, it's not going to be found in the literary classics.
Yeah.
But it's a genre which I appreciate, which is one of discovering who you are and working to become who you want to be.
Oh, I love
It's about transformation.
Oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what we talk about in this podcast.
So that's why I really love the series. And I read the Potter of Niederbip books. There are 3. I got the first book at a little free library that a friend of mine has.
Okay.
And I found it and I read it. I thought, I've got to have the others. Anyway, I bought them, read them, loved them, then found a little card of his for the pottery in the book.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's in Salt Lake City. And so recently, my husband and I went driving out there, and we're driving along and looking at the addresses, thinking, this is a neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's got his pottery at his house.
In his house. That's awesome.
And there's a bench, like one described in the book, that the potters get benches made for them by the next potter. And it's a series of potters that live in this town.
That's really cool.
And so I sat on that bench and took a picture, and I walked into his area and I thought, this is exactly as he described in the book. Anyway, I love him because it's transformation.
I love watching people change too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is one of the beauties of life is that we can change.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what about a TV show or a documentary that you enjoy?
I really enjoy watching documentaries about national parks and places I haven't been and oftentimes won't go.
Okay. Yeah.
I enjoy traveling to some extent, but because of my fibromyalgia, it's hard to change places, change climates, change all these things. It's hard physically to do. So I don't do a lot of it. I haven't really done much foreign travel. So I can watch these things and really enjoy it that way. It's kind of like my life. I can watch somebody doing something good and see the benefit in it and say, oh, I could do that. Or I could watch somebody do something stupid and say, I'm not going to do that. I do not have to put my hand in the fire to know it's hot.
Right. Okay. Well, and I think that's a gift. So that's beautiful. So what about, let's see. Oh, what about a charity or nonprofit that you support?
I support a number of them, especially ones that involve children, special needs, and hunger.
What about a woman from history that you really admire?
I really admire Mother Teresa because of all the love that she brought into the world.
Yeah. Yes. And her kindness. Amazing, amazing person. I did a spotlight on her last year sometime it was really neat to get to know who she was. So that was really cool. What is something that you try to do every day?
I try to study the scriptures, not just read it, but study it. I have an app that I like. It's called Scriptures Plus, and it breaks the scriptures into chunks, not very big chunks, like 10 verses. Okay. And then it has a lot of background about what was happening in history at that time, what the forces were on the person who's in the story or whatever. And so it's a good study and gets a little deeper, and it's got a lot of references. So if I have any questions, I can look that up and go as deeply as I want.
It's kind of nice to have that context to be able to understand a little bit better, because so often, especially in scriptures, you can get kind of thrown off by things like, oh, why did they say that? Or why were they doing that? But then once you understand like what the background was,
what the culture was,
that's part of charity too, and empathy, like understanding what the people were thinking and feeling at that time in their lives.
And that's what interests me with history, is that you see things happening and you can kind of get a better idea of why. Because anything in history we're looking at through the lenses of our own experience, our own time period, but mostly our own experience. And if you understand the context, it really helps. When I was growing up, my mom would say, try anything. You can do anything to which you send your mind. You may not be the best, but you can be your best. And so that, I think you'd asked earlier, and I didn't get back to it, but about risk taking. Throughout my life, I don't take big risks, especially physically anymore. I did some things in the past, but risk was always something I weighed because I didn't want to die in dumb ways. Just knowing that I can do my best. And if I try something and it doesn't work, I can just say, well, what have I learned? Every experience is an opportunity to do that, and say, what have I learned? I don't have anything particular in mind other than doing that, but I'm always trying new things, new ways to make my jewelry, new ways to do projects, and really thinking about how to make things work well.
And that you can figure anything out.
I can figure anything out. And if I don't, very few of the things I try are going to matter much.
Right. Yeah.
If nobody dies doing it, we're okay.
Yeah.
If the dumb ways to die song doesn't play out, then
we're good.
You're golden.
I love it. Oh, well, thank you so much for being with me. I learned so much about being able to really see people and to appreciate the good that's in everyone. And I think that we learned a lot about, especially people that have physical or mental challenges, to be able to see them as the child of God that they truly are, that you're a very good example of being able to see people really deeply. And I think you do a lot of that by thinking before you speak. And so this has been a really wonderful episode for me. So thank you for being with me. Is there anywhere where people could find you, like on social media or anything like that?
I am on Facebook. Candace Bergquist is my name there.
Thank you for being with us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.